The North St. Paul snowman may have had the last laugh, but even he knows the days of snow-covered lawns is nearing an end as spring slowly gains ground for this April edition of Local Image. Hello everyone, I'm Judy Skeie-Voss and I'm located in Veterans Park here in North St. Paul. Plans for park improvements have been in the works for several years, and we'll find out what those are and how you can help pay tribute to our veterans here at this park in just a little bit. But first, Scott Jensen takes us to a place just down the road from here where it's tropical all year long.
We're in Tropiquatics in North St. Paul, Minnesota, tropical fish store. We basically sell fish products, supplies, and a lot of our stuff comes from all over the world and locally in the U.S. as well. Well, we try to carry a lot of exotic fishes, from freshwater stingrays to little dwarf cichlids like the pistogrammas, little small nano-fishes as well, like the little rasboras that only get to about ½ an inch in size or smaller. A lot of people are amazed of the selections, varieties, collecting fishes. The ones that are a little bit more rare are what I like to have, and being here, I like to track down stuff that the average people don't really see every day also. And that's what I want to try to bring into the store as well. And so we just want to be able to provide, good quality stock to everybody. Be honest, truthful, help everybody learn along the way of the fish hobby. It's a very fun and addicting hobby. It's always a growing industry where there's always new discoveries of different species, strains, learning about new stuff all the time. There's always a little bit for everybody, and so if you're in the area, just stop by. Most people likes it, and so hopefully you guys will too.
You may have noticed a recent increase in the number of radio and TV announcements about the issue of human trafficking, a problem that's been on the rise right here in our own communities. Let's hear more about it in this Local Image interview. On March 21st, the League of Women Voters White Bear Lake area hosted a presentation for a nonprofit organization called the Advocates for Human Rights. Michele Garnett McKenzie is the Director of Advocacy for this organization and spoke to guests who came to the presentation on the topic of human trafficking. And I'm pleased that Michele is here with me now for this Local Image interview. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Thanks for being here. And I think to get started, let's get a better understanding of what this organization is. What's the mission and goal?
Sure. Well, the Advocates for Human Rights turns 30 this year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you can't trust us anymore. We're a Minnesota-based organization and really a volunteer-based organization. We work with over 500 volunteers every year in their professional capacities to work on international human rights standards, issues around the world and in our own communities, like here in Minnesota.
Well, and this event that you hosted in White Bear Lake, is that something that you're finding yourselves doing much more of this outreach now?
We are, especially around the issue of human trafficking, which is what tonight's event is about. The Advocates works on a variety of issues, but one of the primary things we do is work on violence against women and ending that in our public policy, making legal reform and changes that really help promote the safety of women and girls around the world. And human trafficking is, as Ramsey County Attorney John Choi says often, it's one of the most vivid and biggest human rights atrocities here in Minnesota today.
Well, that's what I was just going to get to. A few years ago, we interviewed a gal who had been trafficked, and I had no idea until that interview how bad this problem is in Minnesota, and I think most people aren't aware of that. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's largely a matter of vocabulary. We all know that prostitution exists in every community around the country, and some will say prostitution's the world's oldest profession. One of my colleagues says it's the world's oldest oppression, Vanita Carter over at Breaking Free, but it's something that we're used to. We understand, oh, well, that just has to happen. Boys will be boys,
right.
Prostitution happens, it's just the way the world works. But we started to reframe that issue, not the advocates in particular, but we collectively have started to reframe that issue for what it really is, the buying and selling of human beings for the purpose of making money off them, for exploitation. And that's what human trafficking is.
So adult male who pays for a prostitute and goes to a hotel, that's human trafficking.
That's right.
We need to understand that.
Yes, unfortunately, it is. And if that person who is prostituted is under 18, Minnesota law treats that as a felony. That's not new. It's been that way for a long time. We recognize that prostitution of children is a serious crime. And we also now recognize sort of the economic implications of that in the human trafficking element, that when pimps or the promoters of prostitution, what we would call a human trafficker under our law, is involved, they're making money off that person. And they'll use that girl until she's used up.
That's so sad, but it is happening here more than anyone realizes. What are some of the latest statistics on Minnesota and trafficking?
We don't have great numbers about prevalence, unfortunately, because, of course, it's an underground activity, but there are some studies underway right now that the Women's Foundation of Minnesota are behind to try to get a better handle on that. So hopefully we'll be able to visit again with some real numbers for throughout the state of Minnesota. What we do know is that Minnesota has long been a place that is sort of producer of prostitution and a transit point. We have a lot of freeways, we have a port, we have the Mall of America. Girls come and go out of the hands of their pimps or their traffickers on a regular basis. We had some testimony in the House of Representatives yesterday, and a police officer said, look, I arrested an operation, had 2 girls rescued out of that yesterday, 4 the day before. It's going on right here, and that was a St. Paul police officer. When a kid runs away from home, they're 15 years old, they come in from outstate Minnesota and come into the cities, and they have nothing. They don't have a credit card, a driver's license, a bank account. They have their bodies. And if they want to eat or sleep, they're vulnerable to that prostitution. That's something that I think we've chosen not to think about, and we've been comfortable not thinking about, and we're starting to be challenged by that now that we're recognizing it for what it is, for the exploitation of human beings.
So we are making some great progress, I hope, in terms of legislation and laws and enforcement?
On all of those things, we're making great progress. It's been extraordinary to me watching the power of this reframing and the public policy in driving new approaches to combating sex trafficking and prostitution. Minnesota criminalized human trafficking in 2005 and put that on our books. We put it right in our prostitution code, and we also included a labor trafficking section. So trafficking in humans for labor is also illegal here. At that time, it took a little while to really understand how to enforce that law. What did that mean? And we were able to undertake a needs assessment for the state of Minnesota at that point to try to really get at some of those issues. Was it a matter of how the law was drafted, training, and it turned out to be all sorts of things. So one of the primary recommendations that we had out of that was to increase penalties against traffickers and against those who buy sex from trafficked persons. And those changes went into effect in 2009, and that immediately helped law enforcement start with that. After that point, one of the other pieces, and this is something exciting we've been working on in the last few years, was we started to look at how to define victims of prostitution and trafficking. We often hear about it as a victimless crime, that these are 2 consenting adults who are just engaging in sex for money. And that's really maybe being annoying if it's out on the street, it's a morally bad issue, but it's really not hurting anybody, we often think about. When in fact, trafficking in persons is a really predatory, violent crime. And the people who the pimps prey on are vulnerable to that. They're selected, they're groomed, sometimes over months and months before they are lured into that first trafficking experience, into that first client, or raped and then told, we'll tell your family that you've been raped. You belong to us now. That's the experience of one of the young women that we worked with. This is something that we just are starting to recognize. That means that the victims really exist. Those are the women and the girls who are the property.
Right.
They're branded by their pimps. They're kept in this situation. And in 2011, we started taking some strides to really decriminalize, at least for juveniles, that status. So kids who are prostituted aren't seen as the victims and not as the perpetrators of crime.
So what can we do? What should we look for? How should we react if we suspect somebody's in that kind of a situation? We want to help in whatever way we can.
Right. Well, one of the things that was really exciting that happened in the last year was some training of hotel workers, particularly here in Ramsey County. We had a great case at the Days Inn in Roseville where the desk clerks noticed something was wrong. They noticed that there was a girl, underage, accompanied by an older man. They'd been staying there for quite some time. There were some other discussions going on and people coming and going in the hotel. So they called the police. And that's really what we can do. If you see that there's something you suspect is wrong, you can call the police.
Let them check into it.
That's right. They came to the hotel. They didn't come in with their guns blazing and the sirens flashing. They came and they knocked on the door and found out that that girl was being held by somebody who was running other girls and who the police were actively searching for. They were just in the wrong hotel at the time.
Yeah.
So they were able to really get into that case. They were able to get a conviction against the person. I think the trafficker was sentenced to 21 years in jail. And they were able to meet the needs of the crime victim and work with her so she could not only be ready to testify, but get on with her life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that kind of outreach that you guys are doing to inform the rest of us and for us to, step up, notice these things, take some action, and hopefully we can change what has been going on for far too long, especially with our young kids. I mean, that's heartbreaking. Some of the stats on the young kids that are involved in this.
It really is. The average age a child enters into prostitution is 12 to 14 years old.
It's just sad situation. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of the information with us today, and we hope more people will see these programs that you're putting on around the state and I'm sure around the country as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
At the end of last month's show, I asked everyone to mark April 25th down on their calendar because of a very special event. And I said I would tell you what that event is on today's show. And I'm going to do that, but I'm going to enlist the help of a co-worker of mine. His name is Ted Arbeiter, and he's the director of Suburban Community Channels, which is the public access arm of our operation here at Ramsey, Washington Suburban Cable Commission. Ted is in the control room right now, so let's go in and talk with Ted. Hey Ted, we're ready to reveal the big event for April 25th, and I want you to have the honors. Will you tell the folks what's happening on April 25th?
Big event.
Woo.
The big event is the Celebrate Community Media Open House, which will be on Thursday, April 25th from 3 to 7 p.m. right here at the SCC Community Media Center.
SCC Community Media Center, and what's also housed here is Government Television Network and On Location TV 19, along with other things that go on in this building here in White Bear Lake. But Ted, I want to inform people a little bit more about what public access PEG media is. You know, you and I have been working in community television for way too long, probably.
Way too long.
And this operation's been here for almost 30 years as of next year. But still, it amazes us, because we've talked quite a bit about the fact that so many people don't really understand what community television is, how it works, what it can do for them individually or as a group. So I wanted you to give a little bit of a kind of a background, explain what PEG Media is for the folks.
Well, PEG Media is basically, it's public education and government access. And essentially what that is that addresses all the major stakeholders for cable television in our area, or actually many areas. It exists nationwide and exists right here in the northeast suburbs. Essentially, the cable company has a franchise with the local municipalities, and there's a contract with that. And ultimately, PEG Media is the non-commercial aspect of cable television. That's where the local stakeholders, public, education, and government can have access. So the public, everybody in the public can come in and use the facility, use the tools, the assets to produce programs, to share those messages on the public access channels. The government can also use the channels. They have their own channel 16 that they produce their own meetings and all the local government programs.
And On Location, TV 19 is the channel that often will carry the local sporting events and plays and concerts from our schools as well. And then, like you said, government, the G in PEG, and that's GTN 16.
Yes, well, which produces local city meetings and other invaluable city content. But we have 8 total public access PEG channels, community media channels, that the community can get some valuable information about their community, and really only their community, that they're not going to find anywhere else. They won't find it on commercial television. Yep,
it's very cool, and it's right here in White Bear Lake. And so let's get to it. What are people going to be able to do and see when they're here on April 25th from 3 to 7 p.m.?
Well, I think one of the cool things is that they'll actually see a community media center that's theirs. It's theirs ultimately to use. They'll be able to get hands-on equipment seminars with staff and actually see the kind of tools that they'll use, and they'll discover that these tools are actually not tools rooted in 30 years ago. These tools are right now, I'd say state-of-the-art, the same kind of tools that Channel 5, Channel 4, Channel 9, and Channel 11 commercial network affiliates use to produce the same kind of programming.
It's great stuff.
Yeah,
it's
awesome great stuff.
And also, along with getting their hands on some of these tools and seeing the edit suites and the control rooms and studios and all that, they'll also be able to take a guided or unguided tour of the whole facility.
We call it
Master Control, unguided, self-guided, you know what I mean. But See Master Control, where all the programming kind of goes out the door to our various channels, that's really cool. And folks will also be able to meet and greet with staff and some producers here who do their own shows and be able to talk to them directly about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, you'll be able to get a chance to not just hear about community media from staff, you'll also can hear about community media from people just like yourself who have been empowered by the power of community media and actually have their own program right now. We have 9 live shows that come from the studio that are actually community media producers who are members of the community just like yourself.
That's very cool.
Talk to them directly and find out the real story behind it and not just hear it from staff. I think that's really important.
It is important. And meet the staff that works here, you know, day in and day out so hard to help, you know, folks make their programs and do the training and the teaching and all that good stuff. Also meet the staff behind On Location TV and GTN. Also, take a tour of the TV 19 production truck and learn how you can volunteer to be a crew member with our truck productions. I think that's pretty cool.
Can we say great food?
Oh, and free awesome food from Kane's Catering. And door prizes and a chance to win a new TV. Who doesn't want that? Also, lots of fun for the kids. Bring your kids out. We'll have our green screen technology where they can be in front of various backgrounds and have fun, and we'll post those images on Facebook. That'll be fun. And free face painting as well. Another important thing that I want our nonprofit groups out there to be aware of is we have something where the first 20 individuals who are representing a nonprofit in our communities here who come through the door and sign up, we will, on the Production Services Department, produce a free PSA for your group that talks about what your organization does, or maybe an upcoming event that you're having this summer, things like that. That's a valuable little offer right there.
I think you forgot about one cool thing.
No.
The star power.
The star power.
You can meet the stars of these shows, not me, but Judy Skeie-Voss, as well as Joe Cullen and Mary Klein, the star of some of our marquee marquee magazine shows that are on the channel.
And everyone who walks in the door is going to get one of these bags. I mean, how cool is that? It'll be full of great information and goodies that you'll be able to take with you when you leave. And then I want to also mention that in your cable mailings from Comcast for April, there will be a little bill stuffer like this with the announcement for the open house. So consider that your own personal invitation to the open house. So one more time, Ted, when is it and
Once
where
again,
are we at?
the Celebrate Community Media Open House here at the SEC Community Media Center, Thursday, April 25th, 3 to 7 p.m. Be here, be square, be there, everything. We are not the world's best kept secret.
No.
Come share with us.
Come and be a part of it. Thanks, Ted. It's always a pleasure. Another festive and important event is happening just days before our Celebrate Community Media Open House. And here to tell us about it is Tom Trost, commander of the American Legion Post 39 here in North St. Paul. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Judy.
It's great to be here in North St. Paul. I grew up in North St. Paul, so I always like coming back and seeing my friend the snowman. I don't want any more snow, though. We're done with that.
True.
But anyway, Tom, it's an important event coming up that we want to tell the folks about because it's going to be a lot of fun, too. Tell us what the event is.
Well, what we're doing, we're having a fishing raffle. It's the second annual fishing raffle that we've ran out of the American Legion, actually, to support the North St. Paul Veterans Park, and also it's going to help support the Oakdale Veterans Park. The grand prize is an 8-hour fishing trip.
Wow.
And that's a guided fishing trip, and we've got a smoker, and we've got a paver that we're going to raffle off for the Veterans Park in North St. Paul, as well as one in Oakdale,
okay.
And about 5 or 6 different gift certificates, a couple of Joe's Sporting Goods, and so on. So it's a good time, and we've got a lot of other donations, so we're going to be raffling those off simultaneously at the event itself.
And it's going to be at the American Legion here in North St. Paul on April 20th.
April 20th from 1 to 5.
Give us a little bit of the history and where we are today.
The history behind this started just over 4 years ago. This Veterans Park, I want to be very clear, is not a memorial park, meaning that is not for people who have died specifically in action or have already died. This is a living park.
Okay, good to know.
So it covers everyone who has. We have a Civil War veteran who his great-great-grandson had bought a paver for.
Okay.
He was on the USS Hastings, or SS Hastings, during the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Yes, right.
Right up through Afghanistan. In today's world, a lot of times, and you're already seeing that as the Afghanistan soldiers are coming back, people a lot of times, because of the way society is so fast-paced, they're willing to turn the page. And a lot of times veterans get swept up in the process. Veterans are a very proud group of people, and they voluntarily serve their country, which is unprecedented. These soldiers that are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and are stationed all over the world in other places, they voluntarily gave their time. They weren't drafted. They voluntarily gave their time, and it's been a volunteer army since just before I joined in 1973. So it is very important that we remember those veterans.
So where are we at today in terms of how are things moving along? Obviously you're looking for more funding to help pay for this.
We sure are, and we've got a wonderful group on the board of directors. They've gone up and down the city to all the businesses in the city. They've done a yeoman's job beating the drum and trying to get people in. And as of right now, this thermometer kind of shows you where we're at. This shows 35,000, but we're actually at 39,325.
Okay.
And that reflects 142 pavers, so that's $14,200, 11 corporate pavers, so that's $11,000, 10,000 that was donated to us from the City of North St. Paul Parks and Rec, and then over $4,000 that have just come in as donations by by individuals and so on. So it is really phenomenal, considering we started fundraising in earnest in July of last year.
Wow.
You can kind of see on the sign out here, you've got 5 stripes, and those are 3 of those stripes are pavers, 2 are a walkway, and then you've got a star. And each one of the points of the star, the high school is involved in this as well, the junior ROTC, as well as the city, and as well as all veterans and their families. That represents, along with the Legion, all the points on the star. And then behind the star is going to be a series of granite walls, and they're going to commemorate veterans from the North St. Paul area who have died or were POWs during each war, from the Spanish-American War through currently.
Very cool.
And we're able to go ahead and the way this is designed, DSTW, I believe, is the architects, and the way it's designed is as we have changes, they can actually pick those out of there, make those adjustments, because it's laser etched. It's like glass.
Yeah, very
and it's
cool.
supposed to be good for 100 years, and that works for me.
That works for me too. Well, it sounds like an awesome project, and I think North St. Paul and everyone in the surrounding communities will be very proud of it, and should be proud of it when it's up and able to be seen. And one more time, the event where people can really help out in the fundraiser is on the 20th.
20th of April, from 1 to 5 at your North St. Paul American Legion.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, and best wishes with that event.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
A spring fishing extravaganza right here in North St. Paul on the 20th, and an open house to celebrate community media in White Bear Lake on the 25th. 2 great events to get you out of the house this month. And we'll have more great local stories and events to tell you about next month. So until then, I'm Judy Skeie-Voss, and I do thank you for watching Local Image.
Our heroes from across the upper Midwest are coming home from wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Only now, some have a new battle to fight: unemployment. Hello, I'm Rocky Lynn, co-founder of Tribute to the Troops.
I'm Sergeant Dejan Farrell.
And I'm Captain Ron Jarvie. A survey of our troops serving overseas found 25% say employment is a major concern for them as they come home.
Right now, the unemployment rate for today's veteran is 12%. That's twice the average of others living here in the heartland.
These service members learn quickly. They've experience with advanced technology and demonstrate teamwork, discipline, and leadership under difficult circumstances.
This year, Tribute to the Troops, the Armed Forces, and the Upper Midwest Emmy Chapter are asking you to hire our today's veterans. Employers, you've seen what these veterans have done for their country. Think what they can do for your business.
To hire today's veteran, visit positivelyminnesota.com/veterans.
Heroes come from small towns.